The 2014 British Chess Championship will soon be upon us. In fact, it starts in a little under a week's time from the time I'm recording this video. And it's going to be held in Aberystwyth on the west coast of Wales. Now, Aberystwyth is, in my opinion, a perfect location for the tournament. It's the principal holiday resort and administrative centre of the west coast of Wales. And it's also home to the University of Wales, where the tournament is going to be held, and also the National Library. It's perfect, therefore, for families and for players who want to come there, relax and play some good chess. This is the third time the championships have come to Aberystwyth, and the first of these championships took place in 1955, a tournament that was won by Harry Golombek. I've looked over Golombek's games from the tournament, and there wasn't anything really which could be presented as a sort of game of the day feature. So what I've done is pulled out a very good game from the first British to be held in Aberystwyth between Jonathan Penrose and John Spencer Purdy, who was representing Australia in that tournament. This is a terrific little game, and it just shows how Penrose really was getting ready to ascend to the very top of British chess, which he dominated during the late 1950s and 1960s. So Penrose kicked off with 1e4, and Purdy responded with the accelerated dragon of the Sicilian. White played d4, black captured, white recaptured, and now g6. And really, even today, the only real challenge to black's system is to play them rock-c bind, and that's what Penrose played with c4. With this move, white's trying to cramp black. He's stopping black from freeing his position with moves like d5 or b5. Black can try to prepare these moves, but he's going to find it jolly difficult to get those moves in if white plays correctly. Nevertheless, lots of players like the black setup. It's pretty solid and has a good reputation. So the two players proceed with the main line. And now black has to choose. He generally chooses between castles here and a move that was popular at that time, knight to g4. This is a tactical move based on the idea that when white takes, as he probably has to because he doesn't really want black to take the bishop on e3, black will take on d4 with his knight. White retreats with the queen to d1, this is the main line, and again black has to make a choice. There's the very sharp move e5 here, which is not everybody's cup of tea, but it's playable. And there's, after queen d1, knight to e6, and this is the move Purdy played, setting up the thought that yes, black might be getting ready to play bishop takes c3 check in this position. So white generally protects against that by playing either queen d2 here or rook to c1. And now Purdy continued with queen to a5. This line, because of the funny position of the knight on e6, can actually lead to some pretty obscure positions. And black sometimes even castles on the queen side in this line. So queen a5 is just a general strengthening move. Black may or may not be threatening to take on c3 and then take on a2. And black's probably going to complete development with moves like b6 and then bishop b7. As you can see, pretty obscure. So white can do plenty of things here. He can play bishop d3, he can play queen d2. He can play bishop e2, just leaving the a pawn to its fate. Penrose decides to play a3. Well, of course, that slows down white's development, but it takes away bishop takes c3 as a threat. Maybe later on white can get b4 in and expand on the queen side. And it also acts as a kind of deterrent to black casting on the queen side. Purdy plays b6. And now Penrose brings out his bishop to d3. And what I liked about this game is that it could easily be identified as a modern game. There's nothing that could possibly say that this game wasn't played in 2014. Well, Purdy played knight to c5. A logical move, attacking the bishop on d3. Now this is an interesting position because bishop b7 is the main line. And just to show you how obscure this variation can be, let's take a little look at a game from Tilburg in 1997, very relevant encounter between Peter Leko and Jerome Piquet, two of the leading grandmasters in the world at that time. And it just shows you how obscure this variation can become. As after castles, black played g5. Really interesting move. It's this type of move which attracts a lot of players to this variation. Black cements his hold on the dark squares in the centre and sets up the idea that he could actually think about attacking white on the king side with moves like h5. Leko played rook c2, and now PK surprised everybody by taking on c3. Very interesting move. Not many people would think of that. It's counterintuitive to give up the dark square bishop. But the idea is to centralise the queen on e5, to reinforce the hold on the dark squares. Black's trying to make this bishop on d3 look like a very, very poor piece. After rook e1 from Leko, PK played h5. White played bishop d2, and now another really, really obscure move, rook to h6. White played h4, and black played rook g6. Leko when h takes g5, and after knight takes g5, white took on h5. Black went queen to g7. So PK knew what he was doing. This was a deliberate pawn sacrifice, and now the pressure against the white king is considerable. So much so that Leko moved his king to f1. Black went knight e6, uncovering an attack against g2, so white parried with g3, and now black castled on the queen side. So very, very interesting stuff. And it's out of this kind of game that the so-called sniper was born. This is a very modern opening where black plays with c5 very early, a kind of hyper-accelerated fianchetto. Obscure positions like this can easily be reached from that variation. Well, after castles on the queen side, rook h8 is definitely coming very quickly. Leko played bishop e3, thinking about maybe c5 and getting an attack of his own. Rook h8 came. White dropped his queen back, and now black plunged in with rook h2. White went c5, and now ignoring the threat of discovered check, PK played rook f6. Leko took on b6, and black played king d8. And now white is in real trouble. The black kingside pressure is fantastic. If white moves his queen, queen's coming down to take on g3. Leko played bishop f4. PK put his knight in on d4. Queen came to e3. And now queen came into g4. With a winning position from black. Run this through the engines, you'll see that that black is winning this position. White can scarcely defend himself. Black's threatening queen h3 check, and there's not a great deal white can do about it. He can sacrifice lots of pieces, but there's no real defence. After queen takes d4, we have rook takes f4. Let's just see this. I think this wins as g takes f4, rook h1 is mate. And there's another cute variation after f3 where black comes in with queen h3 check and then mates on g2. So this is the type of example that leads a lot of players toward the accelerated fianchetto and gives them the idea they can defend against the Maroczy bind. Very interesting stuff. Which brings us all the way back to Penrose and Purdy, with Purdy playing knight to c5. Clearly with the intention of nabbing that bishop on d3. White let him take it. Black did indeed take it. And now a fundamental decision by Purdy. He cast on the queen side. Well, you can argue about that move all day, but I think the problem with it is that it allows white to put his knight in on d5. This is a very good move, and the idea of b4 is now a serious problem for black. Black tries to get around this by taking on b2, but now Penrose really is in business as he takes on e7 and he's able to exchange off the bishop. Bishop takes d4 check, queen takes d4 check. The only move now is f6 and now c5. Penrose really was a terrific player, clearly of Grandmaster standard, and here he gives his opponent no chance whatsoever to recover from this very poor position. Everything's gone downhill for black over the last few moves, and It remains for white to put black away. So white played queen to e3, and this is a seriously dangerous move, the main point of which it seems to me that Purdy overlooks. The end of this game has a 1955 feel to it, as black doesn't really find a satisfactory defence to white's threat. Well, black played bishop b7. I mean, after seeing what happens, you feel that king g7 is a better move. At least that stops white's threat. White should probably play knight d5 here, and then rook c7. I mean, this is a clearly better position for white, but it's not winning immediately. What Purdy does is to collapse. He plays bishop b7, and now knight takes g6 check. He's just a winning cruncher. Of course, black can't take. The queen comes in, just lops off the pawn, and now it's mate on h5. So going back, black played king to g7, and now it's very simple for white. He doesn't need to over elaborate. He just takes the rook on f8, rook d1, bishop takes e4, and rook takes d7 check. There's no way back for black in this position, and Penrose just shows a very elegant way to finish. Black resigned. So the first British Chess Championship in Aberystwyth was 1955, and I now propose to construct another video for you which shows what happened in 1961.